All right, Darryl,
Yes,
how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we are here, Battle of the Martial Arts, and obviously you are a wonderful martial artist. How long have you been practicing martial arts for?
50 years?
50
Yeah,
years.
50 years.
That is a lot.
Crazy, huh?
Tell me about your story.
Let's see. Filipino, born in San Diego, and got exposed to Filipino stick fighting very young age. But then in the early 70s, Bruce Lee came out, and just watched all the kung fu movies that were out there, and I would mess around with my brothers, and we were all pretty athletic, and it seemed like a natural. I think I want to become a karate guy.
Yeah.
So sought out a couple different teachers and had a couple different experiences, like with the neighbors, but then when my brother and I finally, in I think must have been about 1970, we signed up with a karate class through the Parks and Rec department in our city, and that's where it started.
How old would you have been then?
12.
You know, all of you guys that have been here that long, everybody started as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, just everybody.
But it's not necessary. You can start as an adult, but and not only that, I mean, because I've been teaching almost this whole time. Ever since I got black belt, I've been teaching, and sometimes I think there is an age that's a little bit too young to get started, because I always taught from like 7 and up, and then my city, like Parks and Rec department, said, you're missing a lot of students that are in the 4 to 6 year old. And I said, well, those kids are, they can't really train. So I added the class 4 to 6 year old, and I do it in a different way so that it's
more like games.
It's more,
and fun.
Yeah. I don't want to call it games, but it's more like follow what I do. Do what I'm doing. But we still, still focus and learn how to stand in line and stand quietly.
Yeah.
And
right.
follow along and be not just, do what the group is doing, not in a bad way, but in a good way, because I think the parents always are amazed that I can take 24-year-olds and get them to line up and stand quietly. But you were asking me about how I got started. And so that's when I started karate, with my instructor, who's still my instructor to this day. He's retired, but he gave me all my rankings, and so I trained with him, and then in 1981 got my black belt, and did a lot of
in what martial art?
Kempo.
And Kempo.
Yeah, Kempo karate. And that's where I would do a lot of competition. I was competing in LA and Orange County, and that's how I got into the Karate Kid movie. I was competing. I had this kata that I would do that had all these flying kicks in it, and it was pretty revolutionary at the time. Nobody was, most people were doing their school kata,
right?
And so I would show up with this crazy kata flying through the air and, screaming in front of the judges and stuff, which they do a lot now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I started it, but I was definitely one of the people early on doing it. And the director of the Karate Kid, John Albertson, who was also the director of Rocky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that. That's
the
cool.
first Rocky movie. Yeah. He was out there scouting, and they saw me fighting, and they came to me and they say, how'd you like to be in a movie? Of course, I'm like,
how old are you then?
I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, yeah, I always thought I was going to be the next Bruce Lee. I just didn't know how it would work. And so I thought competing, it could happen, and it did. So they asked me if I wanted to be in the movie, The Karate Kid. And I said, The Karate Kid?
Right. What is
it's
this?
Like kind of a weird name for a movie, but but who'd have known that here 40 years later, it is, one of those iconic films that got a lot of people into karate.
Oh, so many people.
So many. And
me included.
Yeah, yourself?
Yeah.
And I can, I don't know if you know my part, but I fight Johnny in the end. I'm the guy that does a bunch of triple kicks and spin kicks and stuff. But I'm also the inventor of the crane kick. They asked me about the crane kick.
Really?
That they wanted me to do this thing on top of the stump as a stand-in for Pat Morita. And I was like, you want me to jump and land on the same leg, kick and land on the same leg? And I kind of convinced them that I could do a double jump,
Yeah.
where I go knee up and kick and then land. And then they said, well, you got to do something with your hands. So I made this up, and that's the crane kick.
Yeah.
And so whenever I hear somebody that says, I inspired them to join karate or the crane kick or something, I'm always blown away.
Isn't it weird how life works?
It is. It is amazing.
Like you want to make an impact and you just don't know how it's going to be. And then you just take some action and here you are.
Yeah. And not only that, but for the first 20 years after the movie came out, of course, in karate circles, people knew who I was because I would still compete or I was still teaching. But, it gets shown on television maybe once a year or something. And I was in the credits, they listed me as semifinalist. So some people knew who I was.
Oh, okay. I see.
But nobody knew that I was the double for Marita on the beach.
Right.
So for 20 years, I couldn't even prove that was me. I could say that was me.
Yeah.
But people would say, no, that was Master Fumio Demura, or no, Pat Marita did it. It's like, no, that's me. So finally, 20-year anniversary DVD gets released, and they have background talking of the director and Pat and Ralph. And then when it comes to the beach scene, they come out and they say, yeah, there's that guy, Darryl.
Yeah.
He was such a good martial artist. Yeah. And I'm like,
yeah,
finally.
I finally get the credit. Yeah, that's awesome.
So it was amazing. And that's kind of like how I got into the whole thing.
What was your favorite experience from the movie?
Well, I mean, obviously, as a martial artist, not an actor, and I wasn't really aspiring to be in the movies, that's what blew me away the most is movie production and the whole, glamour of Hollywood, if you will. I was totally blown away with that. But outside of that, meeting people like John Alvinson and Pat Morita, amazing people, they're both passed now, rest in peace there. But, meeting people like that is something you always
It always comes back to meeting the people, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It's always those experiences with others.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What do you think about the reboot?
Cobra Kai?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Because I don't know if you know this, but in the first season, in the very first episode, in fact, they used footage from Karate Kid 1. So there's a real quick clip where Johnny takes me down and I fall on the ground.
Yeah.
So I've had to sign a waiver, and I knew that it was in the makes all this time. And people are always saying, well, are they going to put you into it? And are you going to be in Cobra Kai? Then in season 2, they talk about me by name because I don't know. My real name is what they used in the movie.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I play myself.
Yeah.
So, so in season 2, Tommy's in the hospital, and Johnny tells him, don't you remember this year you beat Vidal? So
I remember.
They said my name. And then in season 3, Grease comes out and he's talking to, who is it, Bobby or the kid? What's the kid's name?
Robbie.
Yeah. And he says, your dad went up against Vidal. He was, third generation black belt. They're talking about me again. They got to bring me in. So never happened, but season 6. Part 3 still is coming, so
it's a 3-part season?
Yeah.
I see.
5 episodes per part.
Man, I thought the first couple seasons were done so well.
They were.
And then they really got through them quickly. And but I've kept up with them.
So have I. My wife and I love to binge watch.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those guilty pleasures type of things.
But especially that first season, they just really did the cliches and
it's perfect.
the jokes.
They did it so well.
And if you go back and watch the original Karate Kid, you don't realize it's a pretty funny movie. There's a lot of jokes and satire, and the characters are hilarious. And then they played off all of those. And I love what they did with Johnny being like, the opposite, right? And Ralph being kind of like a jerk.
You see the kind of the switch.
Yeah, he's like, You always thought of it kind of that way, but then they played it off.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I this sounds weird. We're from Milwaukee, and so
Okay.
we took a flight here. And a couple rows in front of me, I'm in an aisle seat. A couple rows in front of me, somebody's watching Cobra Kai,
Okay.
and it's the I haven't seen. I've only seen where the first break was,
Okay.
and so then I'm like peeking my head.
Spoiler.
I'm like, okay, what's obviously I can't hear anything, but it's this huge fight scene. I'm like, no.
Well, I know because I flew over too. I'm from California,
Yeah.
and so my wife and I were going to wait to binge watch it. So I said, "Don't watch it
Yeah.
while I'm away." So
Yeah.
now but you can't. How long are the episodes?
I don't. I maybe like
You
half an
didn't-
hour.
oh,
or
you
whatever.
didn't do it,
I didn't.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch. It was a couple. So I'm just watching the fight scenes and the choreography and like
Yeah.
my girlfriend next to me is like, "What the hell?" Because I'm like, like like a lemur just hopping up.
What's over there?
Yeah. So it was that was interesting. That's so cool. Do you have a relation like do you still have a relationship with any of those guys, or like you just have just a fan of what they're doing?
Well, let's see. Because I can't say anything really.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Well,
but-
sometimes not saying something is saying something.
Right.
Yeah.
Part 3 is still coming
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
So
yeah.
make sure you watch it.
Oh
But
man,
from the original, and going to like things like this, tournaments and Comic Cons and stuff, I still keep in pretty close contact with Sean Kanan from Karate Kid 3
okay,
and Ron Thomas, who is Bobby Brown.
okay,
He lives near me. We play golf and stuff. So, yeah, those are the two that I mainly still
Yeah.
keep in contact with.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, let's swing it back to martial arts in the real world, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what do you said you still teach? Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, I taught Thursday night.
So, is it for your own school? Is it
Yeah.
for
Yeah. So I follow in the tradition of my instructor who taught through the Parks and Rec department. And when I moved to the city that I live in now in California, Murrieta, it was a brand new city. And my wife and I, she teaches dance. So we both started teaching our classes through the Parks and Rec. So today,
So
it's
awesome.
35 years we've both been teaching our classes through the Parks and Rec in Murrieta.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how awesome. You're the instructor for the Parks and Rec. That's so neat.
It is.
Like-
And the funny thing is, I never really talk about the Karate Kid. It's cool.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't add anything to karate, and the crane kick is fake. So
Right.
I never talk about it. And sometimes my students will study with me for even years and not know.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
then they'll say, I just saw you on TV or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is so cool. What I know you said you got your black belt in Kempo. Do you have any other martial arts that you trained in?
Well, I trained in a lot of Wing Chun because Bruce Lee, right? I boxed for 3 years around my black belt time so I could, learn that. And that is an important type of training to do.
Yeah.
I do Eskrima, Filipino stick fighting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please tell me about that. How did you get into that? I mean,
It's been kind of inconsistent the way that I developed it, because I started working with one instructor and then I trained with this guy and learned a bunch of his stuff, and so I can't say that I'm affiliated with any. And there's some pretty large organizations, in Filipino martial arts, but I had all these drills and all this training that I'd done over the years that I kind of just melded together. So when I wanted to teach it and I started in Murrieta again, I just called it the Murrieta Stick Fighting Club.
okay.
And so we meet, and I basically developed a curriculum around, the stuff that I train in. And yeah.
Getting
great
whacked
thing.
with one of those sticks is not fun.
Yeah. but it is, it's an interesting thing because the sticks are light, right? They're
Yes.
very
Yep.
porous and light, but you get whacked, you really feel it.
It really sucks.
Yeah. But the idea is not that I'm going to knock you out. It's just I'm going to pummel your skin,
Oh, it's
and
awful.
it's going to either tear up your skin or it's going to hit a joint and break, something in your bones. So even though I may not knock you out, you're
Yeah,
going to walk away a bloody mess.
Yeah. I was talking with Benny the Jet earlier, and he was talking.
Great guy.
Oh man, he's great. Really great energy. All you guys have great energy. But he was telling me, he's like, yeah, somebody said, do you want to fight Muay Thai? And he's like, yeah. He thought it was a guy. So he goes to Thailand and fights some Muay Thai champion. And he's like, that's the first time I got kicked in the thigh, a leg kick.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, what is this? He didn't know how to check. And then he tried to throw one back and he checked it. He's like, ah.
No, I mean, I injured my knee when I was in my 20s. And after that, I just looked at Muay Thai and said, I can't do that because I wouldn't be able to take that shot to the knee.
Oh, it's awful.
And then I can't even remember it. We're watching the UFC. Somebody took a direct shot and just blew his knee out. And I go, well, I guess I'm never going to do anything like that.
Tell me about your competition days.
Yeah, it was mostly brown and black belt years. I was probably 17 years old, fighting in the 16-year-old division. Like I said, I had this kata that had all these flying kicks in it. In fact, all the flying kicks you see me do in Karate Kid was in this kata.
Oh, cool.
And that's when they discovered me. And so I would do that, and then I would compete in Kumite because a bunch of my colleagues, students that train with me, we would go almost every weekend and compete. So we had it down. I had some trick shots, groin shot, back fist stuff that I was using to dominate. So I did well for a few years, but I didn't hold. I'm not like a 13-year black belt or world champion or anything like that. I always hear these people with all this world champion of this and world champion. It's like, wait a minute, what world championship was that?
Yeah. Well, you were definitely, what was it, semifinalist?
Yes. I was the All Valley semifinalist.
That is one of the best claim to fames I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Okay, so back to the battle of the martial arts.
Sure.
Is there anything that for martial artists out there, any like tips, advice, anything to for their journey that you'd like to impart?
Well, I have a saying that I will say, like, if I'm giving a seminar, and it's the philosophy that we use when I teach is, by demanding excellence, you allow others to achieve excellence. And it's really about instruction and your attitude, because, you train the way that's been passed down through the lineage. And if they are proud of their lineage and they're structured in their way, that excellence will be passed down to those students. And so when you see students that just look fantastic, you can attribute that to their masters.
Yeah.
And they might not have been able to do it without the guidance.
Yeah.
So someone needs to define what's excellent. And that's what we do as instructors.
I'm taking that in as an instructor of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay. Yeah.
I am taking that in. We need to define what the excellence, help them find out what the excellence is for them. I would assume that's.
And part of, I think one thing that you will agree with is you have to figure out how to attribute excellence without connecting it necessarily to competition.
Competition success, right.
Right. Because, I mean, even for myself, I competed successfully for years, and then I kind of petered out, and I'm still a great martial artist. You know, I still teach and uphold the ways of excellence that I talk about. So, I think after people achieve their black belt, and I always tell people, because people talk about cross training, and I think everyone should cross train. I cross train a lot, but get that black belt in something.
I believe there's a quote from Musashi. If you know the way in one thing, you can find the way in anything.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think that's what you're speaking to.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I think about that often. And it's applicable, and all the things all the other things that I try to do.
Yeah. And the world has changed so much in the world of martial arts. Back in the day, 70s or 80s, there was kung fu and karate, and most people didn't even know the difference. And today, between Muay Thai and MMA and wrestling and boxing. We just had the Mike Tyson fight last night, which was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, it was.
But there's just so many things in the whole realm.
Yeah.
You're in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
Yes.
which is a whole. You got to admit it didn't exist.
No.
20 years ago.
No. It really came to actually. It's kind of a funny story, and you may know him, but the reason that it exists in America now is because of Chuck Norris, which is because Chuck brought over the Gracies.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so he went down to Brazil. He took a few guys down to Brazil, got their ass whooped on got taken down.
I think I seen video, right? Chuck getting choked out and stuff.
Now, Chuck Norris is a legitimate multi-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
Amongst other things, but he's he got taken down, and then he brought him in for seminars, and then one of them ended up moving to California, and then brought Elio, and then they were doing their thing in Brazil, but America's I think where the money's at, and then
that's what it's all about, Yeah, when you do it in America, then the world will follow.
Yeah, so it's a weird thing that because I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 20 some years, and it's all because of Chuck Norris.
Who?
Yeah, what a weird, but I was also in Taekwondo as a kid because of your movie,
The Karate Kid,
right? Everybody wanted to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's just weird how the media works, and then it gets that idea gets stuck in your head, and then that and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Those were the two driving
great stuff. Yeah,
driving factors. Okay, let's like I said, bring it back. Is there anything else? Any other message? Anything that you impart and some wisdom?
You can edit out the blank space, right?
Yeah. Well, you're a person. Everybody has blanks. Everybody has. Yeah. And you're not. Trust me, it's not bad at all.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just stay focused. I think that the biggest problem that people have when doing anything, pursuing anything. In fact, we're walking around in this battle of the martial arts, and there's people here in armored gear.
Right.
There's heavy, strong men, lifters. They're all pursuing something, and if they stay focused, they can do well, and it'll change their life. And if you can't keep that focus, you may not get that. And I think it's important to have something, to latch onto and to drive your motivations day to day.
I totally agree. It's great to meet you, and your energy is fantastic.
Thanks.
And thank you. Is there anything that you would like to promote or anything that's coming up?
I do actually. I'm pretty available on social media, so if you go to Vidal Kempo on Facebook, I'll add you and talk with you. But I have a new book coming out.
Oh,
yeah. I'm kind of an author. Most people don't know it, but my career is in education technology, and I have several books about education technology. But my newest book is a sci-fi thriller.
Yes. Tell me about it. Let's hear it.
Okay. It's called Mindcraft.
Okay.
The Educational Singularity.
Cool.
And it's about, it's a play on Minecraft, obviously, but it's Mindcraft. And it's about AI going out of control and taking over education.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and taking over the world.
Did you take a time machine to the future? Or
It's not that far in the future. In fact, it's already happening. And there's a robotics team out of California that, they're very competitive in that world. And Minecraft has become a worldwide phenomenon. And basically, all these robotics teams and, computer teams are now competing at a global level to win the Minecraft competition, the challenge.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. I won't get too much more into it.
Oh, man, I'm ready.
It goes crazy. It goes way out of control. It's a wild ride. So it's coming out. It's available now on Amazon for Kindle, and then the hardcover version will be out in January.
Is there an Audible?
You can get Audible, Kindle. You can just get Kindle and you can have it.
Gotcha.
Audible. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you didn't read. I'd love to hear you read it.
Yeah.
That's an art too, but
It's a lot of work.
yeah, that too.
I mean,
yeah,
writing
yeah.
a book is a lot of work, and then it's like I have a lot of other books, so
Yeah.
I've been looked at doing that, and it's a lot of work. But
If you know the way in one thing, you know the way in all things.
There you go.
And you are obviously applying that in your life.
yes, thank you.
Man, really a pleasure to meet you, Darryl.
It's
And,
been a pleasure.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thanks.